Right now, you might be resting on a thick, memory foam mattress. The air conditioning hums quietly, keeping your bedroom perfectly cool. Tomorrow morning, a sweet Starbucks iced latte is just a quick drive away. We live in a world where absolute comfort feels completely normal. But imagine opening your eyes and realizing that luxury is entirely gone. You just woke up in the brutal year of 1325. Instead of a pristine modern bathroom, a rotting wooden bucket waits nearby. Your soft bed is now a pile of damp, freezing hay. You try to stretch your arms, but an immediate, sharp pain shoots down your spine. The air inside is freezing, biting at your skin. Your bed is not a bed at all. It is a half-rotted straw mattress, a simple sack stuffed with dry grass and countless tiny bugs. You are covered by a single wool blanket. It has not been washed since last winter, and it feels heavier than a small cow because of the accumulated grime and dirt. Before we dive deeper into this dark and dirty morning, if you are new here, welcome. This is your calm space to improve your English listening skills through real, fascinating stories from history. Please take a moment to subscribe and leave a comment below, telling us where you are listening from today. We love to see how far our stories travel. Now, let us look around your new home. You blink in the dim light. There are no glass windows to let the sunshine in, only drafty holes in the walls. You are lying inside a small, damp wooden hut. The entire floor plan is probably the same size as a very expensive, extremely tiny studio apartment in New York City. But instead of modern, minimalist furniture, your living room is shared with domestic insects, a few chickens, and maybe a pig. That is right. Livestock, which are farm animals, raised for food and labor, sleep under the very same roof as you. The smell is something you will never forget. It is a thick, fragrant symphony of stale beer, unwashed human sweat, and wet goat. Scented candles have not been invented yet, and even if you had one, it would simply melt uselessly into the cold dirt floor. You slowly push yourself up. You are exactly 22 years old. In the modern American world, 22 is the prime of youth. You would be fresh out of college, looking for your first real job and making plans for the future. You would be considered young, full of endless energy. But here in the year 1325, the rules of time are brutally different. 22 is not young. In medieval terms, you are roughly middle-aged. Your body has already endured over 2 decades of poor nutrition, freezing winters, and back-breaking labor. When you stand up, your knees pop and crack like a bag of heavy rocks. Your spine feels like an old, rusty wooden door. You do not feel like a college graduate. You feel like an elderly man who has fought a long, invisible war against his own environment. You look around the single dark room. And what about privacy? That concept simply does not exist. Your entire family, and perhaps a random cousin who just never moved out, are waking up right beside you. There are no separate bedrooms, no curtains to pull shut, and absolutely no quiet time for yourself. You share everything from the thin warmth of the fire to the scratching fleas. Welcome to morning in medieval Europe. You are never truly alone because parasites, rodents, and 8 other people are always breathing the same stale air as you. The romantic Hollywood movies never show the mud, the smells, or the aching bones of the ordinary people who built this era. You have successfully survived the night and opened your eyes. But wait, here is where it gets interesting. Now that you are awake, your body has some urgent demands, and ignoring them is not an option. Now nature calls, and it is not calling politely. It is screaming. You look around your dark, freezing hut, desperate for relief. In a typical modern American home, you simply walk down the hallway to a bright, clean bathroom. You sit on a comfortable porcelain seat, use soft paper, and press a silver button to make it all disappear. Indoor plumbing is arguably one of the greatest inventions in human history. It has quietly saved more lives than any medicine, any vaccine, or any doctor ever could, simply by separating humans from their own deadly waste. But here in the 14th century, that silent miracle is hundreds of years away from being invented. Instead, your bathroom is a rough, splintery wooden bucket sitting right there in the corner of the room. It is probably already half full because your uncle had a terrible stomachache during the night. There is no toilet seat, and there is certainly no multi-ply toilet paper. To clean yourself, you must use a handful of dry straw, some crushed leaves, or if you are feeling especially wealthy, a rough scrap of old wool. You hold your breath, finish your miserable business, and then face the next massive challenge. What do you do with the heavy, foul-smelling waste? You pick up the bucket and carry it toward the small opening in your wall or out the front door. You do not bury it in the yard. You throw it directly into the street. But before you toss it into the public path, there is a social rule you must follow. You are supposed to shout a loud warning, yelling the word, "Gardez-vous." This strange phrase is derived from Old French, and it essentially translates to "watch out for the water." People walking below are supposed to hear this and dodge the flying waste, although frankly, nobody ever moves fast enough. When you finally step outside to begin your day, the reality of the medieval city hits you like a physical blow. The streets are not paved roads designed for walking. They are open, flowing sewers. You are staring at a charming, slow-moving river of human waste, animal droppings, rotting garbage, and mystery liquids that you absolutely do not want to examine closely. Every step you take is a dangerous dance. One slip on a wet, muddy stone, and you will fall face first into humanity's leftovers. It is a daily, freezing humiliation ritual. But wait, here is where the story gets even more uncomfortable. After walking through that absolute filth, you feel thoroughly disgusting. Your skin itches terribly. You are covered in sweat mud, and who knows what else. Every modern instinct in your brain is screaming for a long, hot shower with antibacterial soap. You desperately want to scrub the medieval dirt away. However, you cannot. In this era, water is not your friend. In fact, bathing is considered extremely dangerous. The medical experts of the time believed in a terrifying and completely backward theory. They thought that washing your body, especially with warm water, would open up your pores. Pores are the tiny microscopic holes in your human skin. According to medieval science, if your pores were open, bad air and deadly diseases would rush directly into your body and kill you quickly. Think about the dark, twisted logic of that belief. To stay healthy, you had to remain incredibly dirty. A thick crust of dried sweat, natural body oil, and mud was literally viewed as your protective armor against the plague. Washing yourself was a massive medical risk. Therefore, you do not bathe. You just let the grime build up day after day, season after season. You become a walking, breathing ecosystem of bacteria, and so is everyone else standing around you. You have survived the morning routine and successfully navigated the open sewers. But standing there shivering in your dirty wool tunic, your stomach begins to growl loudly. You have not eaten anything yet, and you are about to discover that your breakfast might just be as dangerous as the streets. Why do we get sick? And how can we possibly find the energy to heal, or even just to work, when everything we consume is actively trying to pull us down? You have survived the morning walk through the filth, but now your stomach is aching. It is time for breakfast. Back home, you might stop by a trendy bakery in San Francisco for a warm, artisanal sourdough loaf and a fresh cup of coffee. But here, in the 14th century, breakfast is a bleak, joyless survival challenge. You sit down near a smoky fire and look at your wooden bowl. Welcome to your daily ration of something called pottage. Pottage is essentially a thick, mysterious stew made from whatever cheap grains and old root vegetables were available. It has probably been simmering in that exact same pot over the fire for several days. Whenever someone finds a new ingredient, they simply toss it in on top of the old mush. Alongside this gloomy soup, you are handed a thick chunk of dark bread. Do not expect soft, fluffy wheat. Wheat is a rich man's fantasy in this era. Instead, your bread is baked from coarse rye flour, and to make it last longer, bakers often mix in tree bark or actual sawdust. It is so incredibly hard that you do not just bite it. You have to negotiate with it so you do not break your teeth. What happened next will surely surprise you. To wash down this terrible meal, you need a drink. But you are not pouring a glass of orange juice or cold milk. At 6 o'clock in the morning, you, John, are handed a large wooden cup filled with beer. Why beer? Would that not make everyone drunk and useless before the workday even begins? The answer lies in the invisible dangers hiding all around you. In the Middle Ages, drinking plain water is a massive gamble with your life. The local streams and town wells are heavily contaminated with human waste and deadly parasites from the open streets you just walked through. People quickly learned that drinking raw water often led to agonizing sickness and early death. But brewing beer requires boiling the water. This simple act of heating kills the microscopic pathogens, making the liquid vastly safer to consume. So this weak ale has a very low alcohol content, but a very high survival rate. Even young children drink it with their morning pottage. You chew on the gritty sawdust bread. Take a deep swallow of the warm, flat ale and try to ignore the sour taste in your mouth. This meal provides absolutely no comfort. It merely gives you the bare minimum calories required to keep your heart beating for a few more hours. And you are going to need every single ounce of that energy, because the sun is now fully up, and your real physical punishment is just about to begin. But here is where the reality of the era becomes truly heartbreaking. By the time the midday sun reaches its absolute peak, you are standing in the middle of a massive, dusty agricultural field. Your muscles are screaming in agony. Your only tools are a heavy wooden hoe and a rusty iron sickle. You swing them endlessly to dig irrigation ditches and harvest crops. There are no weekend breaks, no protective sunscreen, and certainly no labor unions to protect your physical health. But as you wipe the stinging sweat from your eyes, you look over and realize something even more profoundly tragic about this society. You look at the women working right beside you. Perhaps you are looking at your own young wife. She is out in the baking heat, doing the exact same back-breaking field labor that you are doing. But her day is infinitely harder. She is also carrying heavy wooden buckets of river water, spinning coarse wool into rough thread, preparing that dangerous pot of stew, and constantly watching over the surviving children. In the Middle Ages, women did not get a scheduled break from their labor. They were the break for everyone else around them. Let us look closely at her situation. In a modern American neighborhood today, a 14-year-old girl is usually a high school freshman. Her biggest daily concerns might involve studying for a difficult algebra test, trying out for the junior varsity volleyball team, or navigating complicated social media drama with her friends. She is considered a young child, legally protected and encouraged to dream about her future college career. However, in the year 1325, the life path of a female is terrifyingly short, deeply unfair, and rigidly locked in from the moment of birth. It was completely normal, and often legally required, for a young girl to be officially betrothed, an old word meaning formally engaged to be married by the delicate age of 12. By the time she reaches 14 years old, she is not entering a high school classroom. She is entering motherhood. Marriage was rarely about romantic love or personal choice. It was a strict business transaction concerning agricultural land, farm, livestock, and family survival alliances. This rapid, forced transition into adulthood came with a horrifying constant risk. In this brutal era, childbirth was essentially a deadly lottery. There was absolutely no prenatal care, the medical attention a woman receives while pregnant today. There were no sterile surgical tools to prevent dangerous infections, and there was absolutely no chemical anesthesia to block the excruciating physical pain. Midwives, the local village women who helped deliver babies based on traditional experience, did their absolute best with boiling water and quiet religious prayers. Despite their efforts, even the most minor medical complication could easily become a rapid death sentence for the young mother, the newborn infant, or tragically, both of them. Giving birth was actually one of the leading causes of death for medieval women. They faced this terrifying gauntlet of pain and potential death over and over again, sometimes enduring 8 or 10 pregnancies in a single short lifetime. And if she somehow miraculously survives, bringing a new, fragile life into this filthy world, her daily burden simply doubles instantly. She must now nurse a screaming infant inside a lice-infested wooden hut, maintain the household's survival, and immediately return to the agricultural harvest so the family does not starve during the coming winter. A medieval woman was heavily expected to endure endless physical suffering, obey every single command from her husband and the local church, and reproduce constantly. She was largely socially invisible, treated as a piece of functional property rather than an independent human being. If a woman dared to be outspoken independent or simply possessed a strong personality, she was immediately viewed as dangerous. Such women were frequently labeled as nags, or far worse, accused of dark witchcraft, a label that could easily lead to a public execution. You watch your young wife struggle under the heavy sun, knowing there is no escape, no social mobility, and no reset button for her. The physical pain in your own back is incredibly sharp, but the quiet, enduring, invisible suffering of the women in this era is an entirely different kind of historical tragedy. But the physical exhaustion of the fields is not your biggest threat. Suddenly, your heavy, rusty sickle slips from your sweaty grip, and you slice your hand wide open. Or perhaps, deep inside your jaw, an agonizing, throbbing pain begins to spread. You have developed a severe medieval toothache. You desperately need medical help. But here is where it gets truly terrifying. In the Middle Ages, going to a doctor is essentially volunteering for polite torture with a theology degree. Let us look closely at the medical science of the year 1325. The entire medical system is based on a concept called the 4 humors. Educated doctors firmly believe your body is a physical container filled with 4 vital liquids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. According to this theory, human health is simply a delicate balance of this internal soup. Because your cut is badly infected and you have developed a burning fever, the doctor confidently concludes that you simply have too much blood. The logical medieval cure for this is a procedure called bloodletting. They will literally drain your precious life force into a wooden bowl using a dull iron blade or a handful of hungry, slimy leeches. And who exactly is performing this highly dangerous medical procedure? In a modern American city today, you might visit your local barber shop on a Saturday morning for a clean skin, fade, a quick beard trim, and some friendly conversation about sports. But in the 14th century, professional dentists and surgeons do not actually exist. Instead, you must visit a barber surgeon. Yes, the exact same man who casually cuts your hair is also the person pulling your rotting molars out by candlelight with a rusty iron hook and absolutely zero anesthesia. There are no sterilized tools, and there are no glowing pharmacies. Antibiotics, the miracle drugs that cure simple infections today, will not be discovered for another 600 years. germ theory. The basic understanding that invisible microscopic organisms cause disease has not been invented yet. Instead, the medical experts believe your infected wound is caused by breathing bad air, or perhaps it is a direct divine punishment for your secret sinful thoughts. If the excruciating pain from the tooth extraction makes you pass out completely, that is considered a highly successful form of medieval pain management. If your sliced hand turns black with sepsis, a deadly and rapid blood infection, your barber surgeon will not offer you a pill. You will simply be given more hungry leeches, perhaps a foul drink made of crushed beetles, and a local priest standing by your bedside to whisper final prayers. It is a terrifying reality, where the prescribed medical treatment is almost always more dangerous than the actual disease itself. You sit in the dark corner of the wooden room, bleeding into a bowl, your jaw throbbing with unimaginable pain, and you ask the very same quiet, desperate question that humanity has whispered for thousands of years. Why do we get sick? And how can we heal? But wait. What happens when the sun finally goes down? The heavy, blazing sun begins to slowly set. The evening sky turns a dark, bruised shade of purple. Your agonizing workday is now strictly and finally over. You drag your bleeding, exhausted body back home. Every single step feels much heavier than the last. You finally return to your freezing, miserable wooden hut. You collapse heavily onto that terrible, bug-infested straw bed. Your bones ache deeply from the endless, brutal labor. Your muscles simply refuse to move even 1 inch. The dying fire casts long, terrifying shadows around you. The night brings absolutely no true, restful peace. It only brings new quiet and unseen dangers. The freezing cold air bites at your exposed skin. The damp winter chill settles deeply into your tired joints. Hungry rats scurry quickly in the dark, dirty corners. They carry invisible, deadly diseases you cannot even name. Fleas bite your bare legs without any trace of mercy. You cannot even see them in the pitch black. A simple wet cough suddenly echoes from your neighbor's hut. In the quiet dark, that sudden cough is utterly terrifying. It might just be a harmless, ordinary winter cold, but it could easily be the dreaded, unstoppable plague. You pull the heavy, filthy wool blanket close. You silently pray to simply see tomorrow's bright sunrise. Let us look closely at the brutal historical numbers. In a modern American city today, life is incredibly long. The average human life expectancy is nearly 80 years. People casually plan for their distant, peaceful, comfortable retirement. But in the Middle Ages, the daily math is cruel. The average life expectancy hovers around 30 to 40 years. However, this specific number is heavily dragged down. It is dragged down by a truly heartbreaking, tragic reality. Nearly half of all born children die before reaching age 5. They are quickly taken by sudden disease or severe malnutrition. One bad freezing winter was all it ever took. Raising a family was a constant, heartbreaking exercise in grief. If you somehow survived your fragile, dangerous childhood, you were lucky. If you successfully reached full adulthood, you were extremely fortunate. If you are alive and still breathing past 40, you are rare. You are literally a walking, breathing statistical miracle. You would practically be considered an honored local celebrity. You might even be respectfully called the Old One. Most ordinary people did not ever simply retire from work. They just stopped showing up to the fields one day. There were no advanced modern vaccines to protect your family. There were absolutely no chemical antibiotics to save your life. There was only raw, stubborn, desperate human endurance. If you wake up feeling sick in the dark, you panic. There is no brightly lit hospital emergency room waiting nearby. There is no modern telephone to quickly call a trusted doctor. You cannot drive a car to a 24-hour pharmacy. You are completely trapped in a tiny, freezing wooden box. You must rely entirely on your own exhausted immune system. Your only true medicine is a quiet, desperate hope. Every single heartbeat in the dark is a massive victory. Every breath you take is a defiance of cruel statistics. You are a fragile survivor in a highly dangerous world. You lie there quietly in the absolute silent dark. You listen to the cold wind howl loudly outside. You think deeply about the brutal day you just survived. You drank weak, flat ale to avoid deadly river water. You chewed on dry tree bark disguised as fresh bread. You bled into a bowl for an untrained barber surgeon. You watched women endure silent, unimaginable, daily physical suffering. You suddenly realize a profound and truly chilling truth. In the Middle Ages, life was not a grand romantic journey. It was a daily, exhausting, and terrifying war against death. Just falling asleep tonight is a quiet, beautiful victory. Surviving until morning will always be the ultimate miracle. So let us step out of that dark, freezing hut and safely leave poor John behind in the year 1325. What an incredibly harrowing journey we have just taken together. You woke up in a bed of rotting straw and stinging fleas. You walked through open streets flowing with unimaginable filth and drank warm, flat ale just to avoid deadly river water. You witnessed tired women enduring relentless, invisible suffering under the heavy sun. You saw medical treatments that were far more terrifying than the diseases themselves. You watched ordinary people fight a brutal, exhausting daily war against starvation, plague, and simple bad luck just to survive another night. But here is the most remarkable truth of all. Those people, those resilient, stubborn survivors shivering in the dark, are your direct ancestors. They fought through freezing famines, survived deadly diseases, and labored until their bones broke simply so that one day you could exist. Their incredible perseverance is literally written right into your DNA. Right now, you might be sitting comfortably in an air-conditioned room in the United States, or perhaps relaxing in a quiet coffee shop anywhere around the world, watching a video to learn a completely new language. Sometimes studying English feels overwhelming, frustrating, or impossibly difficult. You might feel like you are not making progress fast enough. But whenever you feel tired or ready to quit entirely, remember the extraordinary bloodline you come from. You are no longer fighting for mere survival in the mud. You are fighting for knowledge, human connection, and a vastly better future. Learning a new language is not a punishment. It is a beautiful, profound privilege, and it is always an act of pure hope. Every single English word you practice today is a word you did not know yesterday. Every difficult grammar rule you successfully conquer is a small, quiet victory. Every fascinating story you follow here is a confident step forward on your own wonderful journey. You are expanding your mind in a way those medieval peasants could only dream of. So please be deeply patient with yourself. Take a deep breath, trust your own resilience, and keep moving forward. If this dark journey into the Middle Ages stayed with you today, or if you learned a new piece of vocabulary, please leave a comment below. Tell us exactly which horrifying part of medieval daily life shocked you the very most. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss a beautiful story. Share this video with a dear friend who is also learning English, because learning is always better when we do it together. Come back again very soon, because the next story from human history is already waiting, and it is just as rich and remarkable as this one. Until then, take good care of yourself. Keep practicing your listening skills, and remember that you are already doing incredibly well.